All right, so we're here today in front of the Gen 3 Raptor. We're gonna be doing an installation video on the micros, mud flaps, which will also include the mids, and then we're gonna do a strut protection panel that we've developed for the rear here in a moment. So let's get started on the front micros here. A real quick way to identify which side is which and which side is front and rear is just by taking a look at the angles. So the long angle here is going to indicate that it's the rear. A more blunt section here is going to represent the front. So what we're going to do is let's first take out the OEM hardware. This is a 7mm socket here. So what we're going to do is just remove these two bolts. Okay, we're gonna keep those because we're gonna put those back in here. We're gonna reuse the OEM hardware. And these two go right down here. Again, logo always faces to the rear. The blunt section is the front. We're gonna go ahead and put that section, put this one in first. That goes into the hole we just opened up. Okay, we don't wanna tighten that down too far. Same there. All right, so now what we're gonna do is kind of adjust these things how we want them to look. And you can see there's a fair bit amount of play. You can see how these things kind of adjust depending on your offset. We're gonna keep them kind of right in the middle there for the video. And then we can tighten them down. All right, so now you can see they're pretty well installed there. We've got a couple of open areas up here on the top. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and drill these out. So we're gonna take a 5/16 drill bit. You've got about an inch here towards the end that, you know, we don't have, well, if you just look back here on the rear of the fender liner here and the fender, there's really nothing behind these two sections. So you take a 5/16 drill bit, go ahead and drill these out into the area that you want. All right, so we just installed our 8mm rivets into the drill holes, and that's it. So that's the front micro for the Gen 3 Raptor. All right, so now we're gonna install the rears on the rear micros on the Gen 3 Raptor here. So very similar process to the front. Again, the quick indication of which side is front and rear is this has this elongated portion here where the front is a bit more blunt. Again, logo always goes out facing towards the rear, and you can see it lines up there like so. First thing we're gonna do is remove the OEM hardware. All right, so we have the OEM bolts out. We're gonna go ahead and install the top bolt here. So reuse the OEM bolts. Okay, not too tight. We want some flexibility there. Let's get the other OEM bolt down here at the bottom. All right, so then what we want to do is just kind of line this thing up however we want. You see you've got some play here depending on your offset. So we're going to want this thing relatively out like that. So let's go ahead and tighten these down. All right, so we got a couple holes we need to drill up top there. Again, 5/16. Okay, we just drilled out and we got the 8mm rivets in there and you're done. So that is the install of the Gen 3 Raptor Micro. All right, so now we're going to install the strut protection panel that we have, that we've designed for the Ford Gen 3 Raptor. This thing's really designed to protect the solenoid back here on the truck. So what we're going to do is we're going to start just by identifying the pieces, and then I'll walk you through the bends. So this is the driver's side, and the quick way to identify the driver and the passenger side is the Ark logo goes towards the cab of the truck, and then there's also on the driver's side, you can see how this has more, it's got a little bit of teeth on it, where the passenger side is more of just a rounded nodule there. But again, on the passenger side, logo goes towards the cab of the vehicle, so it's a quick way to identify it. So I'm going to walk you through the bends here. So you'll receive this thing, it's a flat piece of plastic, but we've got some groove lines in here to make a box that kind of forms around the strut itself. So the first thing that we're going to do is bend the top section here, and this is a pretty aggressive bend. I try to bend this thing almost all the way onto itself to get a really nice 90-degree there. And then what we do is we fold this section back, and you can see this section has a little bit of a tabletop in it. This section's actually gonna go into this groove line to create a little bit of a box. So form this thing almost all the way back as well, and you can see how that box is kind of taking shape. The quick way to get this thing in is to put one side in first, and then force it down on top of itself, and you can hear it snap into position. And now you've got a really nice box section there that goes around that cylinder and protects the strut. The next bend is up here on the top. So this is gonna be another really aggressive kind of 90-degree bend here to form up against the bed of the truck. And that's it. So there is some other bend lines here just in case you need to move some things around. I'll walk you through that here in a minute. But the next order of business is there's no hardware to take off here. This thing just bolts right on into existing mounting points. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a U-nut that we supply, and we're gonna put that U-nut right up here into that hole. We're just gonna put it right there like that. We're gonna take a 3/4 inch bolt. We're gonna set this thing into position. These nodules on the top section kind of fold into grooves within the body. And then the other portion down here on the bottom, you can see kind of goes right around this, this frame portion on the strut tower there. So what we're gonna do is just finger tight this top section first. Let's just get that nice and in there, get that bolt into position. And then what we can do is take our 4mm hex, and just get that thing relatively screwed in. It doesn't need to be super tight at this point. Then we've got a 1.25 inch bolt, 2 fender washers, and a lock nut. So you're gonna take the 1.25 inch bolt, a fender washer, and we're gonna put it in through the front section over here on the end. And then we've got another fender washer and a lock nut that goes on the back. So we're gonna go ahead and put that thing in there, put a washer on the back, and there's an entry point over here on this side where you can kind of tighten that thing up. So you're just gonna get that bolt on finger tight. And once it's finger tight, then you can come in with a ratchet and a 11mm crescent wrench and tighten that up. Then we want to adjust this thing up a little bit there just to make sure that it's in position. Okay. So now that thing's good and tight right there, and you can see how that really protects that cylinder up in here from any debris from kicking back into it. The other piece here where we've got this other groove line is that if you guys hear any rattling or anything like that, this is pretty good. But if you hear any rattling, we've got a groove line in here where you can bend this thing up just a tad so that it kind of removes itself a little bit from the strut from rubbing. But that's it. Super simple to install. That's our strut tower protection panel there on the rear of the Gen 3 Raptor. All right, we're back here at the Gen 3 Raptor. We're going to be installing the mud flaps. So the installation process on the mud flaps is the same on the mid mud flap and the full-size mud flap. So this portion of the video will take care of both of those products. And we're going to start just by identifying which one is which side is front, which side is rear. A quick way to identify which side is the front and the rear is on the rear section here, you've got these 3 bulbs. You got 1, 2, 3, where on the front mud flap, you've only got 2 bulbs, 1, 2, and the other one's a little recessed in there. And a quick way to identify which side is front and rear, obviously, is the bulbs, but driver side, passenger side, the logo always faces out. So this one would be the front driver side. And what we're gonna do is, okay, so we're going to do a quick installation of the fronts here, and we've already got the OEM hardware removed. So we're going to go ahead and just install these things back up. So you reuse the OEM hardware and you put it into the 3rd hole right there. So let's make sure that's going the right way. Okay, you just want it to sit in there. You're not looking for anything too tight at this point. We've got some other work we need to do. Let me go in here towards the inside of the truck. Okay, so we got a little room there. So then we've got a little adjustability here to make sure that it is where we want it to be. So there we go. All right, so now we take our 5/16 drill bit, drill into the fender. Again, these are into areas where there's no metal backing or anything like that, so feel free. Okay, and that is the install of the front mud flap. Again, the installation for the full-size mud flap in the mid is the same. The mounting points are the same. It's just the length is a little bit different. The full-size mud flap is 7 inches below the body. The mid is 3.5 inches below the body. You still get the side coverage off the fender flare on both the mids and the full-size. We'll move to the rear here in a second. All right, so now we've moved on to the rear of the Gen 3 Raptor here. So we've got the rear mud flap for the driver's side. Again, quick indication is you got these 3 bulbs here for the rear of the vehicle. Logo always faces out, so that's a quick way to identify which side is which. We've got the OEM hardware already out, so we're going to quickly install the OEM hardware back into its mounting location. Top bolt. Second bolt, not too tight. We want some adjustability here. Okay, we want it right there. Next thing on the list is to tighten these things down. Okay, now we take our 5/16 drill bit, drill these 2 holes out here. Okay, so we've got our 8mm hardware back into the holes we just drilled out, and that's it. That is the complete installation of the Raptor Gen 3 mud flap. If you guys got any questions, feel free to reach out at sales@arksplashguards.com. Appreciate your business, and thanks for your time.